We are live.
All right.
Welcome to Texans Unfiltered.
Here we go.
A Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans.
All right. Welcome to Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am Young Ari Gold as usual, and I am joined by my friend and co-host who is typing away, putting together an article as we speak to put on the website. Oh, yo. John Wade, the Garnet Texan. John, what up?
How's it going, dude? It's draft week.
My favorite week of the year.
You know?
I love
Beyond excited. Too bad I'm not going to be in Vegas. Too bad we're not having our event, because the world kind of gets in our way.
Yeah.
But I think that this year's draft is going to be crazy. I'm excited.
I agree. I think this is going to be one of the better draft scenarios just the draft events that we could potentially have. I'm super excited. It's unfortunate that, the world's going through what they're going through right now, but God, just think about the Last Dance documentary that just got a ton of traffic. This is just going to get even more. I mean, people are fiending for anything football. Yep, we can see Ruben Calveo, also AKA my guy, the YouTube up-and-comer, the Nature Boy. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. What's up, Nolan? Yeah, so this is a great week. This is a great week. It's a great week for sports. It's a great week for people just to have something else to kind of just get their minds off of things, right? I was starting to put together another article, just like a final mock draft of my thought on kind of where I thought things were going to go, and then I didn't finish it. I felt like the David Johnson article was enough for right now, and I figured we'd be doing so much recap that there was really no reason to do it. But the best part, one of the things that I wrote in the intro was like the best part about the draft is just watching kids' dreams come true. I mean, for me, that's
I can hear your cat. We've got an extra host this week. Which cat is it?
It's probably Banana. She won't leave my wife's side. I really am excited to just see what's going to happen. We're doing the virtual happy hour during the first round, and then I won't be able to be in the happy hour for the second round as I have my buddy coming over, and we're just going to kind of hang out and do some brisket and stuff. But I'll be able to hop in during our pick. We could talk about that for a little bit and then kind of go from there. But yeah, man, it's an exciting week. This is where we get to see new additions to the team. I need better lighting behind me. I'm realizing every time I look at the screen, it's super dark for me. But yeah, it's just an awesome week. How about you? I mean, what's going on? I mean, obviously you put some stuff on the website last week. I'm going to be Jay Weave. I'm going to be extremely honest with you. We are going to talk nothing about DeAndre Hopkins. It's kind of like beating a dead horse at this point. DeAndre's gone. He's staying relevant by keeping his name out there. I think he's showing his true colors, in my opinion, on how he's doing it. So, Cali, Texas, you know why you should be a Texans fan. Okay?
Hey, we'll do question and answers at the end. If y'all really want to ask us about Hop, ask us then. I'm going to put up a brief article this evening just on how there's going to be no slander on Hop on our end from anything, but we don't want to talk about him anymore. He's that ex that didn't work out, and we're going to let him move on, and that's going to be what it is. Wish him nothing but the best. We still think he's going to be a Hall of Famer, so on and so forth, but he's not a Texan anymore. As much as we change it, we have no control over that. So that's kind of like the end of the discussion. The drama, I mean, right now the drama just exists because we're in quarantine. Like, that's really it. Otherwise, we'd be talking about other stuff.
Yeah, Cali, Texas, you should be a fan of the Texans because there's Deshaun Watson as our quarterback. I don't know if you need another reason, but Deshaun Watson is – I don't know if you could ask for a better quarterback. I mean, John would say Patrick Mahomes, but I think I think I'm super happy with 4 under center, and I think that's enough of a reason to completely still root for this team. And he is for the future. So, all right. So lots to get into. First, let's get into kind of our typical house cleaning. So tomorrow, if you're a podcast listener, you're listening to this live or you're not listening to it live, you're listening to the recording, but you are in for a treat. So I sat down with Dane Brugler last week. I talked for an hour and a half with Texans thoughts about the draft. John talked with our recent addition to the Texans Unfiltered team, Texans Draft, who will be putting articles on the website breaking down the draft. Then when college season wraps up or starts, he's going to be starting to talk about prospects and things that are going on, so you guys can be kind of more in the know as far as prospects that are entering. So he's going to be doing that for us. So John talked to him for about a good 45 minutes, and then you guys are going to get this. So it should be about a 3 to 4 hour podcast. It'll be released Wednesday morning, and you guys will have an entire 3 days to listen and hear our thoughts on where we think the Texans should go and why. So that's one thing. And I'm super excited. This is like one of the biggest things I feel like we've put together as, draft week's a big week, lots of moving parts, lots of, news comes out, lots of things around prospects and things of that nature. So I'm super excited for you guys to get this. I love talking to Dane Brugler. I think he's one of the smarter draft analysts that you can talk to, really knows the game. I'd probably put him and Lance up there as probably the bigger two. Maybe Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks could potentially be a part of that. But
Dane Brugler's article every year on the draft is worth subscribing to The Athletic alone on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, just no doubt. The Athletic, I know you have to pay for it, so people don't always love that. But Dane Brugler by himself is worth the subscription just because his complete rundown, his breakdown on every prospect. He does a full 7-round mock draft or 7-round mock where he doesn't put details behind everybody, but he gets a lot of prospects under. I believe it's at least 150 that he has details on. I could be mistaken on that because I didn't read all of it, but I read damn near all of it, and I read every pick he had for the Texans. So extremely smart individual. James always does a great job. This is, I believe, the second year that he's been on with that conversation. So listen, learn something, and take advantage of the free 90 days on The Athletic. They're not giving us any money. I'm just shouting it out because he's our guy.
Yeah, no, he is our guy. I mean, we had Jordan Reed last year. But Dane, for me, the biggest part. So one of the biggest parts when I reach out to these people to have conversations is, I'll reach out, and if they're responsive and they don't act like they're doing me a favor, then I'm all for having them on and talking to them. And Dane's just a regular guy, just really good at what he does, lives in Dallas, very genuine and authentic. And to me, those are the kinds of guys that I surround myself with. So, I've talked to a couple other draft analysts, one in Houston that, has family ties and just acts like he's doing me the biggest favor in the world. So, we have never had him on because of that, and that's just kind of how I roll. We're going to be doing me and John are going to be doing some things with the Nature Boy. If you guys don't follow him on YouTube, make sure you guys do. We're going to be doing a panel. I'm going to go on and talk with him sometime this week about the draft. Really smart guy, really awesome really awesome YouTube. Make sure you guys go check him out and go subscribe. Really cool dude, just a good dude to talk to. We had a really good conversation earlier today, so make sure you guys reach out to him, go subscribe to his page. Also make sure you guys click like and subscribe our YouTube. It's one thing that we've never really pushed. That's a terrible job on our part, but make sure you guys hit the subscribe button for us. Podcasts come out every Wednesday morning, Jay Weave, so just to know. Also,
I think he was asking when we were live.
Oh, okay. Because it said Twitter Live and podcast. But I wrote a really good article, in my opinion, on David Johnson this week. I sat down, I took a freaking pill to chill me out, and I just started to plug away. That's on TexansUnfiltered.com. Really, really lots of interesting things in there, lots of good research. I really think that if you're one of those people that are like, I can't believe we have David Johnson on our team, just go look. He has had more than one productive season in this league, and just people don't want to add that context. because he never reached 2,000 yards again. So something to keep in mind. But today we're going to talk about the draft and where we want the Houston Texans to go, as we are 3 days away from the draft. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes down. It's an interesting time with everybody being at home and kind of drafting from their basements, and some drafting from their kitchen with 19 different screens and all sorts of different moving pieces to the draft this year. But I think 2 GMs texted Ian Rappaport and said that you draft analysts have never been more wrong on your mock drafts. And that
means every team's going to get an F this year, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's very true. That's just the way it works. It's an interesting year. I really think that the Texans, without a first-round pick, are actually in a very, very good position with the 40. I do think that they can grab an impact player, which to me, that's probably all you can ask for at this point without a first-round pick. But I don't know, John, where do you want to go? Where do you want to take this?
So pretty much, I'm sure that if you've listened to, if you're listening to this at the end of the 4-hour monster of an episode, you kind of know what prospects both me and James like. So this is more to kind of talk about where we feel that the Texans will kind of like their draft strategy based on everything that we've read and all the research we've done, how we think the draft is going to go for them, and also the type of positions we think we're going to target. I would probably start out with, just honestly, what type of positions do you think we're going to value? And I'm just going to throw out there that B.O.B., for as much shit as everybody gives him, has never really lied to us. He usually tells us exactly what he's going to do.
And he already
he already has. This year he says that they need to get faster on their defense, and they haven't really done anything with free agency on their defense. The trades haven't involved the defense. And that's what he said coming at the end of the year, is they need to get faster on the defense. And then he said he was going to target defensive line and safeties. These were things that have already been stated. So I can't imagine that all of a sudden that he's just going to start lying to us. And if he's talking about speed on the defense, I believe speed was him straight calling out the linebackers. So if you were taking my guess, I would say that our top 3 positions on the board would be safety, linebacker, defensive line, even more so than edge, which I kind of tie edge into defensive line because I think that they're going after the same end result. They want a pass rusher.
Yeah, I think if I had to rank the needs just based on the conversation, I would say specifically defensive tackle, safety, and linebacker are probably the 3 biggest needs. I wouldn't be surprised if a cornerback falls out of the first round and is potentially there at 40, that they grab them, as you can never have too many.
Right.
But outside of that, I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at, a Ross Blacklock and Neville Gallimore, Justin Madubuike out of A&M, those type of guys that can come in day one and at least stop the run. Some of those guys can manufacture a pass rush within in the interior, so that'll be big. But yeah, I think if I had to rank them, it would probably go defensive tackle, safety, and inside linebacker. I'm really not too worried about the edge. Gladney is my dude as well. I am so bullish on Gladney. I love everything about him. You guys will hear it when you hear me and Texans Thoughts talk, but I love his attitude. I love the way he plays the game. And if we can't get him, then Amik Robertson out of Louisiana Tech would be fine with me too in the 3rd or 4th. I'm totally fine with that. He's just going to have to only play slot the rest of his life. But yeah, I mean, the edge, I'm not too concerned. I mean, I would like to have another defensive tackle, or a defensive end opposite of JJ if one falls, but this isn't the best edge class for defensive ends. There's some good outside linebackers, but from a defensive end perspective, there's really not very many good ones. There's a lot of long shots that would be specifically, especially that kid out of NDSU that you're a big fan of. Me and Texans Thoughts talked about him as well. His tape is pretty eye-opening when you watch him play. So you have a guy that's, maybe a 5th or 6th round pick that could potentially come in and help. But outside of that, there's really not any defensive ends that are going to be available at 40 that are worth taking a look at. I feel comfortable with the outside linebackers that we have. I don't necessarily want to take another one because if you do, then somebody's going to be the odd man out. And I like the potential of all three that we have. That I don't know if it's something that you want to risk. If that makes any sense. I think Jacob,
fair enough.
Duke at your both need to battle it out.
And they've shown glimpses, and these are guys that are developmental. I would say that there's not a there's not an edge player that really just jumps off the board that we couldn't try and get later in the draft because it's the same sort of thing. They're all going to be developmental.
What about Bond?
Bond, he's more of a flexible type of player.
For me, I'm just asking you specifically.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love him. If he actually falls, I would take him. If he falls, but I don't think. I'm sorry.
At 40.
Yeah, if he falls to 40, but he's not going to make it till 40. It's one of those things that they're very much going to be. They've got to be best player available, and it's got to be best player available on the defensive side. If Bond falls, yeah, I'd take him. If either one of the linebackers that they are hot and heavy over falls, I'd be over the moon. If Queen fell to a spot where we can go and get him, that'd be amazing. However, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
And this is kind of the discussion that I really wanted to get down to was with Bill O'Brien, we know that he values players over draft picks. He's already demonstrated that. I don't think he can make that any clearer than he already has. So how do we think that he's going to actually go about it with this draft? Is there going to be a player that he's just over the moon about and he'll give up his draft picks to go get? Or is he going to go back to the Patriots? Everybody misses the accepted kind of dogma that nobody can draft. No team out there is really great at drafting. What they can do is they can trade back and get volume. And especially in a draft like this that has a lot of depth. What do you think your guess is? What do you think BOB is going to do? Especially since, he's in control.
So looking at the draft, so here's what I think Bill O'Brien's philosophy is, and I think a lot of it has to do with just kind of how the last two drafts have gone specifically. It's going to be BPA, but it'll be BPA specifically on the defense. Now, if there is a running back available that he's in love with, which we all know there probably is, he's going to probably take him. But I don't think it'll be at 40. Now, if Dobbins is there somehow, that's like the worst case scenario for this team, in my opinion. If somehow Dobbins is still available at 40, that's when all Texans fans will likely throw their remote through their TV. Because I don't think Bill O'Brien will be able to ignore Dobbins.
Oh, man. Not Dobbins?
Yeah.
And both him and the guy out of LSU,
yeah. Clyde
Helaire-Edwards, is that it?
Yeah.
So many names. Like, those guys are both redundant to what we already have. And this is my fear with BOB is he is an offensive-minded coach. He's an offensive-minded coach that is now in charge of the draft. So, yeah, Jay Weave is just kind of nailing it with both of his comments. It is a dead zone between 20 and 32, and we really should not be taking an offensive player at 40.
What if it was a guard? What if Cushenberry or Cesar Ruiz falls?
Even then, I think we have to spend something on defense.
I agree. I'm just asking.
I think Bill O'Brien, and this was kind of the point that I was getting to, he completely let Romeo have complete control over the defense. He essentially allowed Rack to operate independent to him. He took over the entire offensive side of the ball. Bill O'Brien is so razor focused on the offense that we all know that we should, spend some draft capital on the defense. However, I'm afraid that if one of the guards falls, if one of the running backs falls, who's the kid's name out of Boston College, the running back there?
A.J. Dillon.
A.J. Dillon. If A.J. Dillon falls, these are guys that I just think that'll be too tempting for Bill O'Brien. And to me, this is more of like a prove it type thing than any of the trades that he's made as a GM. Like I actually will defend him all day when it comes to players are more valuable than picks. If you look at where we would have been drafting if we had our first round pick or our second round pick, and having Tunsil, Stills, and Cooks are better than any of those picks that we could have had. I mean, at this point, both Tunsil and Cooks are still first round. If they were coming out of college now, they would still be drafted in the first round. So I don't disagree with players being worth more than picks, but we do need some youth and we need a lot more depth on our defense. Whereas our offense, like we can find a running back off the scrap heap. Carlos Hyde may come around and take a $2 million contract, and there's our big body bruiser.
Yeah,
that we need to mix in.
Yeah, I think when you look at this team, I don't think that he'll go running back. One, I don't think Dobbins will be there. I think that's the only situation really where we could see that happen. Two, I think that there are a lot of good later round running backs that will potentially be available. And I think there's a couple that he's probably in love with. The kid out of TCU is probably going to be somebody that he's extremely in love with. Suwo. These last names and first names are just incredible. But he's basically like 6'2", 6'3", 232, just a monster. He's working with the Footwork King. He basically said that he is Derrick Henry 2.0. So, there's options for running back later on. I do think I love the idea of moving back, maybe picking up another third potentially if a team gets thirsty enough to be able to give something up like that. One thing to make sure that you guys don't take into consideration is just because there's trades done on the mock drafts that you guys are doing in the simulators doesn't always equate to the same value that is being offered. And I think that's a big one. So trading back would be probably the most ideal situation for me, especially if we're going to go defensive tackle in the second round, as there are going to be guys available in the second round. Jordan Elliott's going to be available. There's just Pat Storm. What do you mean? You can't see them trading back with how things have unfolded. That leaves me with nothing.
He may be kind of in agreement with me. I think that Bill O'Brien's so aggressive that the idea of trading back to him just won't happen. There's going to be a player that he sees that he's in love with that he can move up for, and he'll go get him.
I don't think so. I don't see us moving up. I just can't see it. We don't have the capital. Unless it's BMAC. It's BMAC. That's the only way I see this happening. But I don't see us being able to get 39 from the Dolphins for BMAC. I think it'll be the other second round pick that we'll potentially get. I forget it's in the later part of the second round. But outside of that, I just don't know what else we have outside of BMAC. What, Kiki? Nothing. Jordan Thomas? What are you going to package Kiki and Jordan Thomas? I mean, we just saw Rob Gronkowski go for a fourth round pick. What do you think Jordan Thomas is going to fetch you? So I don't know. I think with the defensive tackle class, while it's not considered super strong, I like a lot of the guys on tape. I love Jordan Elliott. I love Neville Gallimore. I love Ross Blacklock. And I think one of those guys will be there. I think Justin Matabuke is going to be available. And I think you can grab a guy that's going to be able to be an anchor on your defense for the next 4 years and give you somebody to build around. And then throughout the rest of the draft, you're going to add inside linebacker, which it's not a deep class, but there's some good players later in the round. William Gay Jr. is a really good player that could potentially come in. What's the linebacker that Pat's in love with? I think he's out of Michigan.
Murray,
and or Greenyard. Is it Greenyard? I don't know. Maybe it's Murray. No. Pat, what, are you talking about Kenneth Murray?
Yes.
He's not going to fall out of the first round. It's him and Queen. They're basically the only two linebackers.
Kenneth Murray and Queen are the two that I would imagine that the Texans would go up and get. Greenard from Florida.
That's it. Here.
I mean, he's a defensive end.
Yeah, that's why.
So, I mean, possibly for a defensive end, they would move up, but I would think that they would move up for either a linebacker or a safety. I can't really see them moving up for a defensive end, and maybe not even an outside linebacker.
Did you see him moving up for a defensive tackle if Kinlaw's medical reports is somewhat concerning for him?
Oh, I wish they would move up for Kinlaw. You know, everybody knows that. I would think at this point I would give up the whole draft to go get Kinlaw. He's a guy that could be franchise changing if he plays up to his potential, but I don't see it happening. There's enough defensive tackles out there that even if they don't get one of the first two, there's about 3 that are in that tier 2 level that one of them's going to fall to 40 no matter what, and probably even further along.
I just think I think when you look at the biggest needs of this team, Marlon Davidson's fun as well, but I don't think I like Marlon Davidson more as an end than as a defensive tackle. I didn't see a lot of pocket pushing. I do like the defensive tackle from Utah, Likai Fotu. I think he would be a very interesting prospect. But like I said, and like we talked about, I mean, it's best player available. I think they can go all sorts of different directions with the 40th pick. They have holes they need to fill. You know, if Jalen Johnson's there, Jeff Gladney, I think Damon Arnett is going to go a lot quicker than people think. I think he's going to go in the second round. I don't think AJ Terrell is going to be there, but there's going to be some good corners there if they wanted to take him. Zach Bond, like you mentioned, AJ Esperanza could potentially be there as well. The defensive end from Penn State, who I'm really not big on at all. How do you pronounce his name? That name's crazy too. Yetur Yasu. I don't know. Hold on. I got everything pulled up, but Yetur Gross Matos out of Penn State. Outside of that, I just don't really see. I think they can just do with what they want. I don't think Bill O'Brien is this guy that everybody thinks he is. I don't think he's just going to fall in love with the guy and trade up. I don't think he's going to fall in love with the guy and sit there to get him. I think that if the right deal comes his way, he'll take it. A lot of people are just basing that off of the aggressiveness that we've seen for him to get players that he wants. But if you look at the positions on offense, that's done. And on defense, while we do have holes outside of defensive tackle, really that's the only hole on defense we have.
Nolan, we love Derek Tushka out of NDSU. Well, let's just do it like this. Do you think the Texans would move up to get any sort of edge rusher?
Kayvon Chasian, if he falls somehow, some way to the Niners at 31, I could see them moving up. Okay. I think it's the only player I see potentially that they would move up for.
I'm just going to go down by position group and just ask you, we're moving up if there's the right prospect, or what are we doing? Okay. Cornerback.
No.
Running back.
No.
Offensive tackle.
No.
Guard or center. I'm going to lump them together. Tight end.
No. That's the only position group we know we're not. No.
Safety? Really?
No.
Okay. Linebacker?
No.
Defensive line?
Maybe Kinlaw or the defensive tackle out of Auburn. Last name Brown. For some reason, I've been looking at names all day.
I know, they all blend together at this point.
Now they're all just a bunch of freaking names. But yeah, I mean, I think those are the only 3 names: is Kayvon Chasian, Kinlaw, or the defensive tackle out of Auburn. Outside of that, I don't see anybody else that they're going to trade up for to go get. What about you?
I think Kenneth Murray. He's actually on their visit list.
Yeah, they met with them twice.
He seems pretty solid. He's one of those guys that has quite a bit of upside, but I just can't imagine. I can't imagine that he's going to be there. He's one of the guys that I've seen him picked over and over and over in the first round, that a lot of draft experts seem to like more, especially the ones that are closer to actual NFL teams, not the guys that are analytics driven or the guys that do it on the side, but the guys like DJ Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, like that group. They love him in the first round. So when the guys that are a little bit closer to NFL front offices are saying that he's a first round pick, he probably is, whether or not he deserves it or not. But it
We're
does
talking
seem
about
as
Murray?
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I could see them moving up to get him because they have actually talked to him. He does seem to fit the need, and it does kind of fit the rumors that are out there about them wanting to move on from BMAC.
Okay. So what about defensive line? Both tackle and end.
No, there's not a player that jumps out to me that I think will be a realistic get that they'll move up for.
Okay.
Again, we all know my feelings about Kinlaw, and if we don't get Brown, well then there's players like Jordan Elliott that'll drop.
I like Elliott.
He's very comparable, and there's Liki Fuku. Did I say his name right? And then the guy that I can't think of the guy that's from Canada.
I'm not sure.
But regardless, it's like that tier is still there, and they'll all be there at 40. So there's absolutely no reason to move up to grab one of them, especially for defensive tackles, because we talk every year about how defensive tackles are a huge need, and those are the guys that always fall. NFL front offices do not value them the same as us, essentially.
Okay, so what about cornerback?
No, definitely no.
One cornerback worth trading up for.
No, there's some that are worth trading up for, but the investment that they've already made in our cornerback group, I believe it's actually our highest paid position group.
Mm-hmm.
They've already got speed there, which is what he wanted. So the corners are what they are. I could see them going after a guy like Amick Robertson.
Louisiana Tech.
Just because the type of position that he plays, he allows them to have more flexibility with Roby, and how late they could possibly get him because he's one of the under radar cornerbacks, but I don't see them going and getting him because of his size. Like nobody's going to move up to the second round to get him just because of his size.
No, they won't. He's a I would probably say a third, fourth round pick specifically just because of his size. He's 5'8". He's a bulldog, and he battles on every play. But he's really in the NFL. He's going to have to play slot. He can't play outside, no matter how much of an attitude and aggressiveness he has. He's going to have to stay in the slot. But he has the ability to play in the slot. And if he's there in the third or fourth, I think that'd be ideal. But as far as from a trade-up perspective, I agree. I don't think that there's a cornerback worth trading up for. Do you think there's a cornerback worth taking if he's there at 40?
Yes.
Okay, who?
What's his name? Out of
TCU?
Shoot. Arnett.
Damon Arnett out of Ohio State.
Arnett. Yeah, if he's there.
Okabaya or whatever.
Yep, if he falls. But I think that they're going to go after a safety instead of a cornerback.
So, is there a safety worth trading for?
I think so, but they're not on the list.
List? What do you mean not on the list?
On the visits list, and usually the Texans kind of stick to that.
Okay, but even if not, let's not go based off of the list. Let's go based off of if you think that there's a safety worth trading up for to get.
Oh, Delpit, definitely. Delpit is my absolute draft crush.
Okay.
I think that you pair him with Reed. Mm-hmm. Granted, I absolutely crush my dream of having both Reeds back there. Mm-hmm. But Delpit plus Reed, that's a secondary.
What do you like about Delpit?
He's very, very similar to how Justin Reed can play. They can both play center field. They're both kind of do-it-all safeties that can cover a lot of ground. So with the Texans, they don't really play strong and free. They play essentially two shell. So either one can play strong, either one can play free. So one can cover, one can roam, one can take the run, one can be the last line of defense, and they flip that, and they like to have that capability because
Well, here's the thing with Delpit for me. I think that his tackling for me is what is the only thing that scares me away from him being able to play the interchangeable safety that the way we play on defense.
right.
But what I do like about Delpit is that lone free safety, even though we don't play free safety, strong safety, free safety, that center fielder that can roam in the backfield. And while Justin plays in the box and can also cover running backs and tight ends, I like that aspect of Delpit because then you're able to just kind of leave him in the back, let him roam around, make plays. I think he's the best safety in the draft. But I also think Jeremy Chin's another one that I'm a big fan of that I wouldn't trade up for. But Delpit's probably the only one that's worth trading up for. I just don't think they will trade up for.
No, fair enough. The guy out of Cal.
Difference, Cody. I said it based on film, not the scouts. He whiffed on a ton of tackles in college.
Yeah,
he just doesn't wrap up. It's not about anything else.
To answer JJ Productions' comment, well, people will never shut up about Delpit. Normally, the high players never perform to expectations. He's right. I mean, most these guys that we get super excited for around draft time do not. Most guys in the NFL, the bust rate in the NFL draft is extremely high. These are guys that underperform. These are guys that maybe end up in bad situations. They get injured. That's just kind of like the fact of it. They're going to bring in a whole bunch of new players every year and they're going to compete for their jobs every single year. And we get super excited about a lot of draft prospects every single year. And then 2 years from now, we don't hear from them. I mean, we can all name off the top of our head several, especially in the third round, that just did not work out the way we wanted to. As Texans fans, we can pretty much name anybody that was not a first-round pick, and we've even gotten to sprinkle in a couple of first-round picks recently that did not live up to the expectations. So yeah, you're right. Most of these guys won't. But that's part of the fun of this week and part of the fun of draft week and minicamp and things like that is getting excited about the new blood.
Yep, absolutely.
That's why there is that draft industry out there, man.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Real quick side note, happy birthday to Preston, who has been our editor, our podcast editor for 3 years now. Happy birthday to you, dude. Thank you for everything you do behind the scenes. People don't see it. They don't know who you are because you're kind of a mystery figure to most of these people. But thank you for everything you do. Happy birthday. Also, guys, Saturday is the last day for the Brian Cushing game-worn autographed jersey that Pat Storm and I are doing. The hospital workers and things of that nature. So make sure you guys hit up Pat Storm on Twitter, and it's $1 a raffle ticket. So just hit him up about that. All right, so we went through safeties, we went through cornerbacks, we went through linebackers with you, we went through defensive tackles, defensive line in general. Is there anybody on the offense that you think we're not even considering that has given Bill O'Brien a sparkle in his eye?
Oh, watch him find a quarterback. Honestly, there's probably a tight end out there because we have to draft a tight end every single year. We shouldn't be looking at any offensive players, I think, in this year's draft. Like we really shouldn't.
Later round running back, maybe.
Yeah, like a big body running back. That's it. But like you've said, with Bill O'Brien, you really don't know what direction he's going to go because the offense is going to get very, very tempting for him. I can definitely see him reaching up and getting a new toy. Brian Edwards, if he falls, T. Higgins, if he falls, of course, guys that have been constantly talked about. I believe they've had visits with T. Higgins, so always got to have a Clemson receiver. It's stated law. We've lost 2 Clemson players this year, so we've got to draft 1. Right?
Just goes with the mantra.
Then
That's it.
That's it. I mean, if there's another gadget type wide receiver, I love KJ Hamler out of Penn State. If he fell, I could see us definitely spending a pick on him. But I think that with Brandon Cooks, it's a little bit redundant. However, here's kind of the thing about both Brandon Cooks's and David Johnson's contracts. There's essentially 1-year contracts. So that's why, as much as we sit here and we say we do not need a defense or an offensive player for this year, let it seep in the back of your head because both of those guys are playing year-to-year contracts. This is prove-it years for them.
Yeah, I would say that in the likelihood, if we looked at both scenarios, the most likely to come back would be Brandon Cooks, given that Will Fuller and Kenny Stills are both free agents next year. And they could do a restructure, give him more guaranteed money, lower the cap hit, and make him happy for the next 3 years. David Johnson, no matter what he brings, I just don't see him coming back next year. But anything is possible. I mean, I think his cap hit next year is $9 million. So if it's him and Duke again next year, maybe it just depends on everything else. But ideally, I think, or not even ideally, I just think realistically, I think there's a good chance that he's gone. They're probably going to run him into the ground as hard as they can this year. But yeah, I mean, so I guess with that, what is your ideal draft scenario? If you could go through what do we have? 7 picks?
Yeah. First pick.
Position at least.
First pick, something somehow works out. The linebacker, it's Patrick Queen?
Yeah.
It's Queen. He would be our first pick.
Okay.
Absolutely pray.
Third round?
Third round? Probably the Ashton Davis out of Cal, the safety that's been getting a lot of late love. I like him a lot.
Yep. And then with the 5th pick in the 4th round?
Oh, A.J. Dillon or Fontu, Leaky Fontu.
Okay. The defensive tackle out of Utah?
Yep, defensive tackle out of Utah or the running back.
Okay.
I like A.J. Dillon. I do. As much as he's one of those guys that I typically have more of an offensive side of the ball. So I typically look at receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs all day long. And A.J. Dillon, with the right blocking scheme and as a change-up back, he would be very, very appealing.
Okay. And then in the 5th round at pick number 25 in that round? See, this is
Devin.
Situation.
Oh shoot, I'm gonna do it. Devin Duvernay.
Okay.
Out of UT.
Over Colin Johnson.
Yep. Oh, definitely over Colin Johnson.
Okay. 3 picks in the 7th.
Hopefully Tuska's still there. Out of NDSU. Derek Tushka is one of my favorite players. He's taken draft Twitter by storm though, so he's no longer a secret. However, I did have the pleasure of watching him quite a bit due to my wife's family.
Okay, 2 more in the 7th.
It depends on whether or not we took Dillon in the 4th. If we did not, Sewu.
Oh yeah, from TCU.
From Olin Niliu. I'm sorry, man. If we ever get the chance to talk to him, I'm gonna have to absolutely apologize for butchering his name. If we do not take Dillon, if we actually go with Leaky Fontu, yep. This is gonna
Leaky Faucet.
Leaky Faucet. If we go with him, then I would say Siwu. If we do not, what's that guy's?
You're talking about the TCU running back, Siwu Oladilu, right? Okay.
Yep. The guy over TCU. If we do not. You know what? I'm going to change it up. We're going to pass on Dillon because it just makes more sense and just go with Siwu.
Go with it. Okay.
Siwu.
Yep.
And then our very last pick. I don't know. Does it matter at that point?
Yeah, it matters. It all matters.
I'm not sure.
Okay. How about
I thought we weren't going to talk about players, so I honestly didn't put a list together. So I'm
no, I
trying
didn't
to.
either. How about a position? That's where I was going originally, and then
Oh, it'll be a special teams player.
special
Somebody
teams.
that can play special teams.
So probably
That's always our last pick. Somebody that can play with special teams.
okay. So ideally for me, the draft would go with Blacklock in the second round at 40. Probably if Willie Gay Jr. is there somehow in the third, I'd be fine with that. If not, I'd go probably Logan Wilson out of Wyoming, inside linebacker. Then I would go with the running back out of Louisiana Tech. Now we've had so many names. Now I'm just totally lost, but we talked about him for a while. 5'8" slot corner. Meek Robertson. And then in the fifth round, I would like to go Quez Watkins out of Mississippi State. 4.35 return guy, wide receiver, gadget, very Tyler Ervin-esque. Give us a little competition for DeAndre Carter in the return game. Also another guy that you could put out in the flats and do things with if you wanted to on the offensive side of the ball. And then first pick in the seventh round, I would go NDSU defensive end, Tuska, whatever his name is. Then I would go with. It's very true. No, it's very true. That's why I was telling him it definitely matters where you take them.
It's true, but if we knew their names, they wouldn't have been seventh rounders.
Very true. Very true. And then I would take the TCU running back Suvu just because I do think that he'd be a very interesting piece to this offense. And then I'd probably grab another corner. If I had to, it'd probably be a corner. Just because you could just never have too many corners. I know we took Meek Robertson, but if you can, why not? So probably if I had to pick one corner in the seventh round, I'd probably go. Probably Parnell Motley out of Oklahoma.
Oh, the cornerback Lamar Jackson. There you go.
Yeah,
just because that'd be fun. A team's gonna have fun with that. Some team
will have fun with that, and he won't be on the cover of Madden.
But in like an IDP league, you can say, "Hey."
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's
sneak them in.
Let's get to some Q&A, so that way, since we have such a long podcast tomorrow being put out, will probably be a shorter stream tonight. Plus, we got a busy week of draft and all this other fun stuff that's happening, thank God. A little bit of normalcy. So there's a bunch of questions. Let me find them. So moving back, yep. Okay, Jalen Johnson, no. John, the one that ended up from XFL from Battlehawk, no. We need a running back. Oh, here we go. Would you say that there is any truth to the Stills rumors, John?
No. So essentially that all started because Aaron Reese, or is it Rice?
Aaron Reese.
Reese. Again, another guy with the Athletic. Again, he does a great job for the Texans, but he made a more or less like a comment.
It was a mailbag.
It was a mailbag on
a question
on if there was a guy that was kind of able to be moved on from, and Stills was brought up. There's two reasons why. To me, it's kind of silly to kind of discuss it. Granted, with Bill O'Brien, you never know. Like, we would have argued a week before DeAndre Hopkins was traded that no way in a million years that it happens. But I would say this about Stills. Stills and Fuller play the same position. Cooks does not play the same position as them. Everybody's getting wrapped up, again, in speed. Yes, they're all fast. Brandon Cooks does things that neither Stills nor Fuller can do. And Stills and Fuller do things that Brandon Cooks doesn't do as well.
Can you be specific on what?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks is more of the gadget player, the player that everybody wants. He can go deep. mainly because of speed, but he doesn't really get off blocks very well. However, when he was first drafted, one of the things that everybody talked about was his ability to stop, start, move side to side. They didn't think that he could have straight line speed the way that he does. And he wasn't really picked to be a deep threat. He was picked to return punts and to take Darren Sproles' spot in the Saints offense. Like that same sort of gimmicky, gadgety player, short passes, get ball in space, let him do work. Where Cooks has really found value is he's developed into a very good deep threat on top of that. So he is closer to, other gadget type players like Tyreek Hill or Deebo Samuel. Like those guys, he's a rich man's Taven Austin. He just does a lot of those little things that adds a lot more variety to your offense. Like he's gonna be the guy that does the jet sweeps. He's gonna be the guy that's in motion. Not that Fuller and Stills can't, but they're more of straight line speed guys, and they're both better at catching the ball, even catching the ball deep. Even though we talk about Fuller still hands, or Fuller with stone hands, but he has a much higher catch percentage than Cooks does. But he doesn't have that lateral quickness, the ability to start and stop the same way that Cooks does.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted you to do it for them so they can know what you were talking about.
Okay. But no, that kind of goes back to why I don't think that any of them are expendable, because they all do different things. Yes, Cooks and Stills Fuller and Stills are a little bit redundant, but you need that, especially with Fuller's injury history. And I think that another year with Stills and Watson getting their timing down, we're just going to see great things out of Stills.
Okay. All right. Next question. Even if David succeeds this year, do you think he is still gone, John?
Even if David succeeds this year?
Yeah, David Johnson.
David Johnson? Possibly because of the way his contract's structured. Just there's still that possibility. You don't want to pay running backs. Again, we have him essentially now on a 1-year deal. And it depends on what type of success he has. If he comes out there and he looks like the second coming of Marshall Faulk that we all thought he could be, if he comes out and he puts up a 1,500 total yard season, then yeah, they probably justify paying him that much. Otherwise, they're going to restructure his contract, and he's not going to be the biggest fan of that happening. But yeah, I see him as more of a 1-year type. Let's see what happens. I think that honestly, Bill O'Brien wants his Kevin Falk style player. Like I think that's what he really wants, and he's giving both David Johnson and Duke Johnson the opportunity to essentially audition for that. And Duke Johnson he was a great player for us last year.
I agree. No, I mean, I think that there's a way. I honestly don't think that he'd be opposed to a restructure on his contract that gives him a little more guaranteed money. Since his contract was signed, has not been another outside of Le'Veon Bell that has had signed a running back to a contract of that magnitude. If you look and watch, Melvin Gordon signed for $5 million. Money isn't being thrown at running backs before. So a restructure and giving him more guaranteed money, if he does have a productive year, I don't think is out of the question. But most of the time, players don't want to restructure. But at the end of the day, when you have no guaranteed money and you're cut, then a restructure is better than testing the market and potentially losing out on that money. And it's a gamble. So I think all scenarios are on the table. I think there's a good chance that Kenny Stills is back. I don't think Kenny Stills is going to demand a lot. He'll be entering I think this is his 9th, 10th season, something like that. I think he was drafted in 2011. So, his market isn't going to be massive. So you could likely sign him for a decent contract and bring him back. Right now, it's all about signing Deshaun and Laramie. And once that's done, then they'll have an idea on where they're going and what they're going to spend to be able to start to make other plans. But also another thing to keep in mind, after the draft, comp picks aren't an issue when signing free agents. So you're going to start to see some of these other free agents start to get up. Jadeveon Clowney, Seattle's not getting a 3rd-round pick for Jadeveon Clowney now.
Yeah, they've got to beside him.
We should let him go because we were guaranteed to get a 3rd-round pick. Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's part of the reason why everybody got quiet on free agency. Nobody wants to give up that comp pick.
Yep.
And we'll see a lot more start to happen. I believe it's May 5th when they can start signing people and it doesn't go against the comp pick
Yeah.
formula. So that's when we'll start to see players move again. And yeah, like you were saying, Jadeveon Clowney, if we had kept him, we wouldn't have gotten anything. Except, we might beat the Chiefs. But that's neither here nor there. And as for Kenny Stills, he was drafted in 2013.
13.
So he's a 28-year-old. Fuller is the better player over Stills if he can stay healthy. I love Stills. Stills is, again, he's one of the most efficient wide receivers in the league. But let's be honest, Fuller is an absolute game changer when he's healthy. But the thing there is if he's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, Cody, I agree. If we can sign Snacks, that would be fantastic. Because then you can move Jernigan over to the opposite end of JJ. Gives you a little more flexibility. You have a guy that can come in and learn under Snacks at the defensive tackle position, similar to what we did with DJ Reader and Vince Wilfork. That is a very ideal situation for me. And then it just gives the Texans even more flexibility in the draft. But I just don't think that that's going to happen. So, all right. Anything else? You guys got any other questions? About 10 seconds before we wrap it up. No. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the click, like, and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. You think Snacks deal might happen post-draft depending? Yeah, I think there's a better chance post-draft for sure. I think the value is just going to continue to go down. The best part about the draft is that teams are filling a position of need, so the value of these free agents starts to go down even more. So there's a good chance that something like that could happen.
Yeah, I was just...
Yeah, I was going to say, I figured you want to say something.
No, I think that either Reed or Snacks happens after the draft, depending on how the draft goes.
Yep.
If we're able to get a quality defensive tackle, but we don't get a safety, then we may have the Reed brothers. I think that's really just kind of reading the tea leaves. That is actually out there, and it is in play. It just depending on the draft. Reed was released, so there's no comp pick, so we'll probably know sooner rather than later. And I can't believe he was released, but you'll see.
Yeah.
And then pass rush over corners, the Chiefs proved it. Granted, the Patriots for, 15 years kind of proved that it was coverage over pass rush.
Yeah.
And then a few years back, the Broncos had a defense that had all pass rush and all coverage, but nobody in the middle. So there's a lot of different ways to win in the NFL. They all work. You just hopefully have a coach that makes a decision on which way to go and commits to it.
Yeah. No, I think they want to see the cat, but I don't want to jerk my head and go grab him. Let me see. Hold on. Come here.
What if Reed's brother leaves and Reed also wants to leave? They're individuals. I think Eric Reed would probably be playing for his last contract regardless. If he came over to the Texans and didn't make it work, he just wouldn't be around much longer. And Justin Reed, we have control over. So he still has his contract. We'll still have the opportunity to franchise him if he continues to elevate his game, even though we don't really want to ever use franchise tags on safeties. But we would have control over Justin.
Yeah, no, I like Eric Reed. I think it'd be an interesting dynamic. I think they're very, very different safeties, which is awesome. They bring a lot of different things to the game. All right, John, anything else?
I just want to reiterate, please subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. We don't really chase the clout. However, getting interviews and having some of these things that kind of happen, having followers helps.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the more subscribers, and David Johnson's a great get, but imagine who else I could potentially get if I had, more YouTube subscribers. So yeah, for sure. But we appreciate everybody that supports us. It's just amazing to be able to have it. I was talking to somebody today. I was messaging them and they were like, what? You know who I am? I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. Like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, I love you. Like, that's crazy. Like, Yeah, dude. Like we support everybody. We're not here for the clout. We're not here for any of that stuff. We're just here to have a good time, have fun, make a name for ourselves, and go from there. The Johnson interview, no, the date is not set, but he did call me yesterday. Monday? Yeah, yesterday, and said, hey, sorry, the draft is going on. I'm crazy busy. He has like 13 prospects that are potentially going in the first round, but says that persistence is key and that he swears this is going to get done. So to just stay on top of them. So I imagine it'll happen sooner rather than later. I think it's just a bad timing on our part as far as the draft and things like that. So, but yeah, it'll happen. All right. Well, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. This should be a really good one for you guys. If anybody's looking for any information around the draft, you're about to get 3 to 4 hours full of it. Make sure you go follow Texans_draft, Texans_thoughts. They helped us out with this podcast. Go follow Dane Brugler. And yeah, keep supporting us. And we appreciate you guys. Enjoy the draft. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk soon.
Loved this episode of Texans Unfiltered? We'd love for you to be a Patreon supporter. Your support allows us to provide you with the best Texans podcast possible. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Houston FB Pod and everywhere podcasts can be found. And join our community on www.texansunfiltered.com or on Discord at Texans Unfiltered. Thank you for listening. Until next time.